Hi, everybody. Today is June 22nd, the day after the solstice. What do we have today? We had the S&P tracking between 3,700 and 3,800. They're talking about suspending the gas tax, which is dead on arrival. The longs came for them very hard out of the box on a big gap down opening. It was just like the old days, but they had no real shorts to trap. So it was as though they looked around after they bought them and they were like, what do we do now? And it went sideways. Today is another Wednesday. We have a dear friend, David, who's been a guest before, and his friend, Adam, who's a trader, as well as his background comes from assessing the odds of poker and the probabilities associated with that. So this show is brought to us by Sanglucci and their team of traders, and we thank them for that. And typically, the idea had been when we had 5,000 people on the floor, after the day, we'd get together at Clark's downstairs. Or if we were over by the stock exchange, there was Mamie O'Rourke's and Schraff's, and when we were in the trade center, there was places like Gamelli's and the church, and we would talk. And when the exchanges closed and everybody went virtual, the idea was maybe we could get together virtually, and then we thought, well, might as well share it. And so this is our virtual happy hour. And so welcome to that. It is a bit of more of a playful romp with the occasional jab, as you would get at your local watering hole after a tough day. And so without further ado, David, did you do anything good today?
Yeah, man. I don't know, like I heard like traders are having a rough time in this market, but I've been enjoying it, man. The bear markets, for me, it's more predictable. I don't know, maybe it's because I have a bear mindset, and it's like I'm just refining my craft, and it seems to be working great. I've had no rough spells, knock on wood, lately, so it's been great, man.
Check it out, right?
Yeah.
They bail us out every rally. We get bailed out, even if we're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Even if I'm wrong, the market's been forgiving, at least the way I trade.
Right. And so, I mean, that's the first time in how long? In a decade, probably, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've never experienced a bear market myself personally.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, right, Adam? Right? It's kind of cool to watch, right? They don't have any shorts to trap anymore. Like, if you're a prudent short, if you've been a short that survived the last 10 years, you're like, I'll take my profit. Thank you. See you later. Bye. And then the dip buyers, they come in.
That's what's interesting, because I started, when I first started trading, it was during a bear market in 2008. And so I was like shorting, I was like shorting in 2008. Everybody was so negative. And so I started, I was like, oh, cool, I can make money when stocks go down. Everybody's so negative, so the stocks are going to come down. And then so I was shorting, and then all of a sudden there was a bull market, and then I kept shorting. And so finally, after 12 years, now we're in the bear market again. So I can finally make money shorting again.
You know what's interesting? They always said, for all those years I was growing up on the floor, they said they'd never hang out a sign at the top.
Yeah.
Right? And were there any signs at the top this time? Did you see any signs, David, at the top?
I mean, I've seen signs since like a year ago, it's just and every time the signs come, I'm always wrong. It's like it never comes.
Right.
What do you mean, like signs at the top? Like, for example, what,
like a big sign like that says this is the top.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we heard the Uber driver talk about the stocks he's trading on his Robinhood? Or like when I went to Puerto Rico and I'm getting a haircut, the barber over there wants to stock it, he's running stocks by me. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
well, I would say one big indication is I'd say Kathy Wood becomes a billionaire. I mean, somebody that is that stupid makes all this, becomes a billionaire, and people just throw money at her, and she ends up losing everybody. They're sure they'd be better off, throwing darts for
Bezos,
stocks.
right? Bezos retired, or no, he resigned. Was it retired or resigned? One of the two, from his positions right at the top in Amazon. So
yeah, he retired.
Yeah.
At the top, when the stock reached the top, he retired.
Yeah.
But but I actually have a chart of the Dutch tulip mania on my wall, and I've been like, it has it doesn't just go straight up and down. It goes up, down, and then like it does it again. So I've been always, whenever I try to figure out the top, or whenever like I'm just having fun with the idea, I'm always thinking, are we in the 6th inning, like in a baseball game? Are we in the 7th inning? And like so many times I've come up with like, okay, I think we're like in the 6th or the 7th, and it just keeps going and going and going. So like, I don't know, but I think now it's pretty clear. It's hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, but like, I think the top is in.
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to use to, I mean, this is a metaphor, like we're at the bar. I'm like, what are they going to use? They use the shorts as shorts and quantitative easing and, and easy money to get us up there. Now you have no more shorts, right? The prudent shorts have covered, right? The only people who are short are those betting on a crash. So, and that's, as Art Cashin would say, betting on the end of the world's not a great bet. So, I mean, you've got large gaps higher. I mean, it's got to be a headline, right? It's going to be something like the war ends. What will it be? Well, what ignites? Like Jay, he's like, he's looking for the long side. What's going to cook the shorts?
Well, it's just a lot of people say like all the negativity, going on right now, which is similar to, I remember the negativity in 2008, where like you go on these talk shows like CNBC, most analysts seem to be bearish, and I think it's just probably a matter of time, where after a few months of negativity, then the market just kind of goes up on its own, and it might even be turning around today and yesterday, because yesterday was a big green day, so it's possible that we already found the bottom on it.
David, what's going to cook the shorts? What could it be? That can't be the Fed reversing course. They're trapped, right?
Well, I know in small caps, it's just there's too many people trying to short sell, because everyone from the last couple of years, it was easy to buy and just did buy and just buy blindly. And now I think the same mentality has reversed. So people think, oh, if that worked, let me just short sell blindly. And then like when all the shorts pile in on top, because buyers can pile in on top of each other and the stock goes up. Short sellers pile in on top of each other and it does, it's a disaster. So waiting to happen.
Right.
And then
we lived it for 10 years, right? Trying to join all the shorts, and it was a disaster.
Yeah, trying to force something, but
right.
And it's kind of the same way. I know it was small caps. It's like I trade basically just all small caps. When I started out a few years ago, there was only like one major broker that like specialized in short selling small caps. Now you have 4 or 5, and like they're getting easier borrows to short sell, and now there's like higher fee rates. I look at the fee rates recently. This is something I've talked about with my friends. It's like IB has the short inventory and the short fee rates, the borrow rates. And I've never seen it. Maybe Adam has seen it higher than now, but like there's a lot of stocks that are absurd, the borrow rate. So you can't even swing these stocks short, even if your thesis is correct in the short term as a swing trader, short, you're going to lose on the borrow rate. And then like when the borrow rate is high, that means the demand is high. That means more short sellers are aggressively shorting this. And it's like, it becomes a potential disaster. So you have like Revlon, for example, is going bankrupt, or it's about to, and like it just keeps going higher. And like the same thing happened with Redbox. And
it's
funny, yeah,
and AMC, right, and all that.
Yeah, stuff. Yeah. But exactly. It's a similar scenario in a bull market, but it's happening in a bear market, which is like, it's really weird,
That's cool. Hey, explain to all the people who are just watching what a borrow rate is.
So the borrow rate. Okay, so a short seller broker or a broker borrows a stock from a long, of someone that's long a stock, lends it out to someone that wants to short it, and then like so the broker collects a fee for that, but also pays the long a fee for lending it out.
A percentage interest rate.
A very small percentage. And I know I think Adam can talk about it more, but Adam has like even longed, like for example, there's a stock that had like 1,000% borrow rate, and like you can actually make money just by holding it and watching all the shorts get squeezed. Not only do you make money as it gets squeezed, but you also collect a fee for it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed is like the like the one that I happened to short was ISPO, which was I mean I that I longed it and because the borrow rate was 1,300%, and I've never seen a rate that high. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna long this, and then I'll collect some of that percentage. But
Right,
the
you're like
problem was
a slum landlord.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But the problem is it was there was a reason for it, you know, because it's like it was about to have the lockup expiry, and a bunch of people sold into it, so I actually lost money on that one. But because you would think, okay, so you usually when the bar rate's really high, that means that the stock's probably going to fall because there's a reason for the bar rate to be so like incredibly high. Because 13, like let's say 1,300%, that's like 4% a day or 3% a day that you have to pay of your position.
It's so, hey,
Yeah.
just spinning it to poker, are there bets that are too obvious in poker? Like in a sense, right? Like the borrow rate is so high that the downside's almost a given.
Well, yeah, I mean it's you know if you think of like you could think of like patterns of the way people play, and then like if they do something that's that's obvious with with a bet, but but lately it's been a little bit more unpredictable. Like you don't know if the high borrow rate is a bluff or if it's legitimately a high borrow rate. Like with red bar, a couple examples like RDBX and ARC, those borrow rates are like 900%, and so you think, okay, well that means it's going to fall because people are willing to pay such a high rate. They must be pretty positive it's going to fall. But actually, the opposite happens. It's actually doubled and tripled since the rate's high. So not only people are paying 2 to 3% a day to short it,
And you're
but they're
getting
also
squeezed.
like getting squeezed at the same time. Yeah, it's
Oh,
horrible.
ouch,
and
ouch.
and to add to that, there's more to add more fuel to the fire. Like those stocks that you mentioned are low float. Uh, and so like someone locked up the float, and I think a conspiracy theory is now like longs are more fearful, and short sellers always get the blame for things going down. So I
Right.
think some longs found out they're getting a little more, they're paying attention more, and they're turning off the lending on their shares. So when they turn off the lending on their shares, and there's more demand to short it, and the stock is low float, and there's a catalyst, and there's too many short sellers because the stock is supposedly going bankrupt, or it's red box. I know across the street from Adam there's a Walgreens, and like there's a red box there. I took a photo and I sent it to the whole TradeSpace WhatsApp, and it's like it looks like someone like urinated all like on the side, and like it's all rusted, and it's like and that's Redbox. So that's the stock, like who's buying this? It's
So years ago, we only had days to cover as like the metric in a name. Do you guys still look at that? I don't look at the particular internals of individual names. And so is days to cover still a metric?
I don't really pay attention to that. I'm not even sure what that means, days to cover. Do you know more
Like
about that?
the short interest divided by the daily volume.
Okay.
I didn't know it like that. I'm aware after the fact usually if something is squeezing. I'm like I'm paying more attention. I'm like, why? I'm trying to figure out what that was going on. Sometimes there's like a T+2 or T+3 thing, and I don't understand it fully, but it's just that could be a possibility because I know some brokers call in the shares back, especially if they lend out too many for some reason, if it's like a low float IPO or something. You know what I mean? And what's interesting to me, so I interviewed, I don't know if you know Chris, Walter Deemer, that's his name. You know
Yeah,
Walter?
right. He's older than I am.
Yeah, I interviewed him twice on my podcast, and he was telling me one episode we did about the go-go years, which I find interesting. I just love history, and he was mentioning that T+2 or T+3 was because Wednesdays back in the 60s and 70s, Wednesdays was completely off. There was a day off in the market. It was like
Yep.
a weekend, so there's
Yep.
only four trading days.
Yep. And they worked Saturday mornings.
It works Saturday mornings.
Yeah, there was open till noon on Saturday mornings.
I did not
Oh,
know
I
that.
didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
You learn
Learn
something
something new
new.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it used to be 10 a.m. It was 10 a.m. to 4. And then then they made it like 9:30 to 4. And then,
So the rule is still T+2. It hasn't changed, but why haven't they changed? Like that's obsolete. Why,
I,
I don't know.
I mean, of course, like in the 87 crash, every trade had to be written by hand and then entered by keyboard at SIAC, which then used punch cards. And we got those old school computer printouts to try and do the breaks and things like that, which were massive, which is why they had a problem. We had shortened days during the 87 crash of just trying to reconcile trades. And of course it was open outcry. So, you just prayed that the other side of the trade. Anyway, yeah, those,
Interesting.
yeah. There's a question, is any particular names out there that you guys have been bashing around?
Well, I was just wanted to talk about something because I haven't talked about anybody before, but I've been kind of getting hit on a couple of these that just kind of keep going higher and higher. Because like I was successful. Like my strategy is basically the same as David's for shorting, and so I've been successful with shorting a stock that I know kind of went up for no reason or from not a justifiable reason, like not really strong news, and I shorted it, and most of the time it just comes down. But a couple of these, they just keep going higher and higher on me. Those are the ones you wanna avoid. And so I was thinking like how can you figure out which ones are gonna keep going higher and higher, even if it's a bullshit company. For example, with this Revlon, that the bonds are trading at like 10 cents on the dollar, and the stock keeps going higher and higher. And it's like I realize like there's a couple reasons why these stocks keep on going higher. For one of them, and this is something I just kind of had an epiphany today about, is that it's some sort of like a kumbaya moment, where like a bunch of people can get together, for a cause together. So, for example, Revlon, everybody knows Revlon. It's an international brand, and everybody can just kind of rally together, like, oh, Revlon's going bankrupt, let's buy Revlon, but Revlon's gonna maybe get taken out. Maybe someone's gonna acquire Revlon in bankruptcy. Even though the stock is most likely worthless because the bonds are trading so low, but people just get together and do it.
So what's the epiphany?
The epiphany is that if you see a stock that has the potential to have a kumbaya moment, like I just said, don't stay short. You maybe just short it for a little bit for it to sell off at the moment. But another one, for example, is Clovis CLVS, and they have a cancer drug that got approved but doesn't sell well. I've been getting squeezed on that one too, and that's a similar kumbaya moment because people know the stock from a long time ago. For many years, people have followed it, like the past 10 or maybe even 20 years, and just people know it's a cancer drug. It's not like a piece of shit, biotech. I mean, they actually got a drug approved, so people can rally together and keep buying it in the hopes that the buyout rumors are true. That's a buyout rumor. So that was just my epiphany. It's just, I mean, I know CLVS is going bankrupt also over time, like because the drug is ineffective. It's not popular. It's not selling, and but in the short term, you can go through a lot of pain on the short because there's that kumbaya moment that people have on that particular stock.
For
Go
me,
ahead, David.
yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go.
So yeah, so it's just for me, it's just I have the same conclusions as Adam. Actually, he's more informative about like the bonds and all that. I'm really, you got to remember, I started just like three and a half years ago. I'm not as sophisticated as as Adam, so he's been around for a long time. He's very experienced. He's a CFA. He went to school and like he's worked with some of the best in the industry. He's worked with Martin Shkreli,
Hey, David, so
yeah.
can you hold that thought just for a second?
Yeah.
Write down what exactly you were going to say, and let's just take a quick side journey into the value of experience versus, as you were saying, you've only been in the game for 3 years. And my recent thinking, and tell me if you think this is right or wrong. My recent thinking is that experience happens at the cost of because it costs money, because usually it's some sort of traumatic losing trade. And I'm like, as Adam knows about, right? You have a traumatic losing trade, so you get the experience and you get the knowledge about that particular situation, but then that situation passes. So my question is experience really valuable, or is it by the time we get experience, has that situation passed? And so the quote cumulative experience is less valuable than we think.
You know, I don't know. I'm the type of trader, I like all knowledge. I like all, like I have an architecture background. We spoke about that last podcast, and I like to be like the conductor of a symphony. You know, that's the way I see this. And like I want to take as like Doctor Strange in the Matrix, you know, in the multiverse. You know what I mean? I want the past. I want the future. I want, if I understood, I wish I need to learn bonds a little bit. I like that stuff. I like to know as much as I can. So yeah, I think experience is a big one, you know, because like I mean, you just got to adapt. You take the experience and you morph it as you go. You know, it's like everything rhymes. You
Yeah.
know, nothing repeats exactly. Everything just rhymes over
I
and
mean, it's
over.
definitely something we can debate back and forth, right? Like, is your experience a handicap? Does it prevent you from actually changing on the fly like David could do quicker than us? Probably, right?
Well, I think on the topic, I think that's why you have to have a good memory to be a good trader, because you have to remember what works and what doesn't. Now with the topic of experience, David, I mean, he seeks out a lot of knowledge, so he can, I mean, more than I do. So he's learning from people, which I think that's what's really important. If you're a beginner, if you learn from people who are successful, then that kind of prevents you from going on the hard road. Like I actually went the hard road, because I was I
Most
started
people
trading.
do. Most
Yeah,
people do go the hard road.
yeah, exactly. And David didn't go through that kind of road that most traders go through, because he had good guidance, or he followed certain people.
Mhm.
But for me, I started trading in 2008. After I retired as a professional poker player, I moved into stocks, and I ended up losing everything I made in poker. I mean, I probably had like, maybe like 500 grand or a million, from poker savings. And I lost all of it in the stock market, and so I ended up being, broke in 2016. And then I was writing research for clients. I was giving them research, and one of my clients, he's an analyst at a hedge fund, and he's also a trader. And I learned a lot from him, because he's a successful, hedge fund trader, hedge fund analyst. And I would tell him, I was going the wrong route, because I had more of a Warren Buffett mindset, and I still do to a certain extent. It helps in some ways, but other ways it doesn't. But anyway, that's another topic for discussion. But
Stop. Like, what are you doing? He's 100. He's like, have you read the book Fooled by
Yeah,
Randomness by Taleb?
yeah. I have an
I
Yeah.
forgot if
audio.
I read that or not.
Yeah, right. Like, he talks about certain personalities happen to dovetail with a certain economic outlook or macro situation, and these people are anointed gods, but they just happen to have a particular method that was coincidentally what worked. And
Yeah.
maybe, right, maybe things are changing, right? Like,
But to add to what Adam's saying, yeah, you know, when I started out, you have like semi-transparent traders on the internet that have had success, and they're accessible. You have Twitter, you can actually reach out to Twitter. I mean, you look at my podcast, all those guests that I've interviewed, I've reached out to personally, and like I'm talking with them. Not only have I learned on my own from like when I was at TradeSpace and before that, but like I have access now to talk to as many people as I see necessary for my that I'm just genuinely interested in, and I'm constantly that's not formal education. That's just education from the internet, or from that wasn't available 2000, 2010, 2012, 2000, however, 2015 even. I remember
Yeah,
when I first started trading, you couldn't even do streaming on your phone, like video streaming, without paying outrageous prices on your plan. You know?
I would suggest that people don't necessarily want to hang out with us in person, but they want what we think, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that's a benefit of the internet, and that's the benefit, of online, and we can all go to school, and so to speak, by just hooking up and connecting with what in a sense, that's our legacy, right? That's what we leave, is that, what we think, this is what we can teach, this is how we can help people. Like Adam, is there any truth to you saw it in poker, are people who are getting what they need are less predictable than the people who aren't getting what they need?
Well, you can say in poker, like if you're losing at poker, most people, almost everybody plays worse. Like if it were someone's on a hot streak, they play a lot better. And that might be kind of going to what you're saying. If someone's getting what they need, if they're very successful,
Right.
then they're winning because they start maybe thinking clearer. But at the same time, if you go on a hot streak, you might have a big head, and then you're more prone to making a mistake by getting careless. And that also happens with trading as well. Like from now and then I go through hot streaks where like I go through 2 weeks of just every day just killing it, just making money every day. But then inevitably every single time it's followed by a really horrible time, a really downtime. And you just have to remember when you're going through the hot streak, you instead of having to prevent yourself from having a big head, you have to remember the times where you suffered.
How much of poker is luck?
I would say there's a lot of luck in poker. I would say there's a lot more luck in poker than trading. Trading is a lot more skill than poker. With
Is
poker, you can because I think with poker you can play perfectly and still lose money. Whereas with trading, if you trade perfectly, I think you can, for the most part, avoid losing money, or at
and
least a lot.
and how frequently do people bluff in poker?
Well, that depends on the individual. I mean, bluffing is very difficult. Most people don't do it because they don't have the awareness to do it. Because in order to bluff in poker, you have to constantly be aware of what is the right time to bluff, what is the right moment. And most people, they don't have the stamina to be constantly that alert, so they just play their cards. So if you're against somebody that bluffs, then that means you're against like a pretty exceptional person.
Do you think that the Fed or any politicians bluff?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because they're trying to get their base to vote for them. So
Hmm.
they have to please a lot of different people at the same time in order to get the votes.
David, ask him a question about poker.
The thing is, I was never really a poker player. I
Me
played
neither.
chess. I played chess though, and I know Adam, he's obsessed with chess.
Hey,
Yeah.
do you guys get excited when you know you've got the odds on your side in a trade? Like it's like we've solved the puzzle, and it's like all of a sudden we've got this great feeling like, oh, hey, I get it. Like I know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get that, but the thing is, since I trade small caps, I gotta still respect that it's a small cap, that these things are volatile, you know. Um, so even if I have that home run trade, I will size it up a little more, but I still always leave a little space because I don't know, I'm a little paranoid with these small caps. Like look at now, we're in a bear market, and you got these things are some of them are still bouncing really hard, you know. So
Adam, when you're looking at the screen, what gets you excited? Like for me, it's solving the puzzle. Like, oh, I just figured out how it's going to play out. This, maybe for the next 10 minutes or something, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one thing I do more than a lot of traders. Like David and a couple other guys I know that I communicate with. You guys don't go as big when there's like a slam dunk opportunity. Whereas I do. I mean, of course, sometimes when I'm wrong, I lose a lot of money. But when I'm right, like for example, with I can make a lot of money. Like with this one stock, Veru, VERU. I knew they would go through a period of a pump period. So the pump period was when they announced that they're applying for emergency use authorization for their COVID drug, and then at the same time, this fund that only Tang Capital that only buys for momentum. You know, they announced a position. So I was like, this is it. This is the pump moment. And so I just shorted the hell out of, like, I shorted like over $1 million worth of shares on it, and I didn't make a couple $100,000 on that
Hey,
trade.
are the emotions in a cold streak in poker the same as the emotions in a cold streak in trading?
I think poker is much more brutal than trading. Like I mean, it's just my mindset. Like I think I enjoy trading more, but like I can go through really bad moments in trading, and I just sort of accept it. But with poker, I just get like so angry when I go through these bad periods. Like it's like the world isn't fair, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, how do you diffuse that anger, that trauma?
Well, I think you have to just try to just look at things the way they are. Like look at how the game is. It's not a fair game. I mean, sometimes trading isn't fair either, but
Hmm.
especially poker isn't a fair game. And it's interesting we're talking about this because I'm actually playing poker tonight with a bunch of traders. We're having a poker night tonight, so it's good we're talking about this.
It
So
just is.
I can remember when we play.
It's true if you don't know who the mark is, you're the mark. Is that true?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah, yeah. Or there might be a couple marks at the table. You know, you might be a mark in addition to someone else. So you have to try to target the mark more than they're targeting you.
You, right? And then, hey, David, what do you do to keep your sense of humor in this game?
Sense of humor. I don't know, man. I find humor in I mean, short selling small caps. You see the ridiculous reasons why these things run. Adam and I, we always make fun of them, you know. And then like, you have these Twitter people like Muppets. I mean, there's comedy in it all. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
You
That's the
know,
only thing that keeps us coming back, right? Because we know we're going to get hit at times, and it's just like you just
yeah.
have to have the sense of
But
humor.
like I remember one time there was a time that like Adam, you know, Adam's a CFA and like he knows his stuff, and he there's a merger and acquisition, and he's right next to me in TradeSpace, and he calculates it, the merger price, and all right, this is a good short. We go, and then he shorts it. I shorted on my own thesis, and then like he on Twitter he posts, I don't know, he mentions it on Twitter, and then like some Muppet, like avatar of like a, I don't know, like the Muppet caricature, messages him with like the exact calculations and the exact price and calling him out on it. And then Adam's like, you know who I am? I'm a CFA, this and this, and arguing with this Muppet. And I mean, this is hilarious itself, you know. So I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's an actual Muppet, like a Muppet from the movies. And then Adam actually recalculates it. He's actually, oh, I just got schooled by this Muppet. And then, and then he actually acknowledged it and like gave the guy props. And I think you friended him after that. But
Right.
Yeah, he's actually right. Like most people are really stupid. Most people are really stupid on Twitter. Like people stupid. I actually came across a guy who was actually smart. That's like one in 50 on Twitter.
You
but
know,
like
they
it was a guy with like 3 followers, and like his
perfect.
avatar was like Bert and Ernie, you know, like Big Bird or something like.
You know, they what do they say? Rigid personalities are more closer to mental illness. And so with that sense of humor, maybe that helps us get a little bit more flexible.
I think so. You know, I had a brief conversation with another trader about this, and I think you know, I think you got to have a sense of humor with it. I think
Yeah.
that because like when you see a reason, actually, you know, you don't want to have too much of a sense of humor where you get cocky, disrespect the price action or whatever.
Right.
But you know, at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is ridiculous. Like, for example, Redbox, I'm not gonna short it. I know that it's got a whole bunch of disasters for a short sell right now with the borrow rate and with the too many shorts and squeezing. But like when I take that photo of Redbox across Adam's uh you know apartment, and like you know it's all yellow and faded and rusty. You got the ocean breeze hitting it, so it's like really rusty because of the salt water.
Yep.
um and it's in the middle of COVID. No one wants to touch anything. Who's gonna do a touch screen with you know, a germ, like I don't know, it's a disaster, and no one does DVDs in the first place. But like to see everyone talking about how AMC is gonna acquire it, or Redbox is the future. They're gonna, you know, Redbox is gonna, I don't know, take over the world. It's, you know, it's gonna get into crypto. It's gonna have NFTs and you're gonna buy an NFT from the screen at the red box. It's just too much, you know. So how is that not funny? You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. And this is the market. So Adam, we talk about it a lot. Like, okay, so poker, you're competing against the best people at poker, and I think that the best person makes like $1 million a year. Or like chess, the same thing. You could have the highest rating, be a grandmaster, and you're still competing against the best people in that field and like not and making good money, but not like trading. We compete against idiots, you
No,
know?
no, David, you're competing against the smartest people in the world, period. They're in here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree, but at the
Well,
same
not
time,
not the micro cap world.
not the
I mean,
microcap.
if you're large caps, you are, but you know, not what we trade.
Some right. What was in Watership
It's a
Down, right?
mixture. It's a mixture because you got the institutions that run the algos and all that. You have a guy with the MIT quantitative finance that the hedge fund hired, and they're running an algo on a small cap. But for especially the last couple of years, you had a lot of Momo traders. Like you just type a ticker into Twitter and you get to see all the people just, it was so ridiculous, you know? So
Well, we need those people to make a living, because if we were the mark, right, Adam, we wouldn't be making the money.
Yeah. Just to add to that, it's like, but with that's the thing. Like with poker, if you're like a shitty poker player, you're gonna lose your money pretty quick. Or with chess is even worse. Like if you're a bad chess player, like you'll never beat a guy who's a master, a chess player. But with trading, you could have a group of people that band together, like I was saying before, that kumbaya moment, where you got a bunch of morons that band together. They can run over the smartest person, and it happened with Melvin Capital. Like Melvin Capital's hedge fund manager was like one of the smartest guys in the world. You know, smartest hedge fund managers, managed like $5 billion. And a whole horde of like GameStop guys just completely ran over him with GameStop, and his fund lost like over $2 billion.
So you guys
GameStop.
check this out, right? In 98 and 99, when the NASDAQ doubled year over year, how's that? Up a hundo and up a hundo year over year, back to back, right? The bullish consensus was pegged at the top. So you had the consensus right, and the NASDAQ doubled year over year.
Yep.
Right. So there you go. Right. You're saying, right, you can see the kumbaya. There's a massive, right? The collective was bullish, and they were right.
So Chris,
Apparently.
I love thinking about like that, the dot-com boom. I've interviewed a couple of hedge fund managers myself about the dot-com boom and what they were doing, how that time period was. Like, we're talking about the top in this market. What was the signal of the top in that market?
Every short was broke. That was now, what was that, 21 years ago? What it was it was a blow off top in 2000. In April of 2000, the Dow in those days didn't go up or down much. I mean, not like it does now, but it went up 600 points in 3 days, which was a huge amount at the top in 2000. And so that it was a classic melt up at the very highs.
Wow.
It was one of those where it was, you know how we always say do crashes occur from overbought or oversold? Crashes occur from when you have an oversold condition that isn't being worked out, right? It remains oversold and can kind of drifts down. And so all the prudent shorts have covered. And that just leaves the quote value players, the guys who are long because it's quote oversold and cheap. And then when the bottom falls out on that, that's when you get the crash, because there's no bid from the shorts and everybody's long. So the reverse happened in 2000 at the highs, where all the prudent longs were gone because it was so overbought. And that just left the people taking flyers on the fact that it was higher than it's ever been, way overbought, way overdue for a correction. And then they just melted up, and that was the top.
Now, with 2022, was it more violent of a move back then to the top?
Yes, it was the last real melt up blow off top that I've seen. That was what, 20 years ago. Now then for like two decades, it was like rounding tops, right? Do you remember like being short for the last 8 years, and the tops were like these campaigns where it was like just a rounding top, and then the bottoms were like these Phoenix bottoms, right? They were down there for like 30 seconds, and then they were just like 20 handles higher. Oh, whoever was buying them.
Yeah, and I feel like this one is not as much of a correction as like 2000 or 2008, or I guess actually 2001 was the crash, or 2008, because we just had sort of a tough period with COVID in 2000, and the market reached the bottom there.
No,
So now,
2020.
that's what I mean. Yeah, 2020.
Right.
And it's only been 2 years since then, so I don't think there's enough time to really get as much of a bullish fervor as it was in 2000 and 2007 with those bull markets.
Yeah, I mean
So I don't think we'll crash. I don't think we'll crash as much now as we did back then.
I'm not an Elliott wave theorist, but in an Elliott wave, there is a part of that theory says that if the first move as we're using 2020 as example, is simple, in other words, it was a straight drop, a very fast crash, so to speak, the second time this next corresponding down move will be complex, where it has a lot of zigs and zags, which is what we're having now, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, there are probably people who are very knowledgeable about Elliott waivers are saying that this is completely normal if we were to follow. Does anybody know what was Elliott's first name? Anybody know?
I forget.
I do too. I do too. Okay, now that question I want to ask you about, is there a particular gender that bluffs better?
Well, I do think this is I think men play against women worse than women play against men a lot of the time. Or I should say men get sometimes more emotional against women because they want to beat the girl, So sometimes I think women can use that to their advantage in poker.
Yeah. Which one have you been fooled by more? Successfully fooled by?
Between men and women?
Yeah.
I think the time I was fooled by women is more memorable. Like I remember I was bluffing into this one girl, and she looked so like scared. She was like picking at the chips, kind of. She was even like shaking, kind of putting them in, like really thinking hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the river, I went all in, and then she like called, and she like flipped over like the nut flush. And I'm like, God, he's like flush. And I'm like, oh man, I got completely tricked by her.
Schooled, yeah. It's
But that must have been a long time ago. That was like probably 15 years ago.
are men more reckless in the betting, or do you not know?
I think definitely, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, women are usually very conservative players. Like usually, women aren't going to be bluffing. I don't think you have to be that worried about a woman bluffing usually, or men either for that matter. For the reasons I said earlier, it takes a lot of extra awareness to be able to know when to bluff.
And can you count cards or no?
Well, not really. I mean, in poker it doesn't really work. I mean, you can look at the board and you can see like because there's two jacks out there, it's less likely that somebody has a jack in their hand. But that's counting cards is more of a blackjack thing.
And do people become superstitious about anything like venues, days of weeks, Friday the 13th, full moons, things like that, black cats? Are poker players superstitious?
Some of them, I guess. I guess if they, yeah, I think they can be superstitious. Like if you get jinxed, about the next card or something like that.
Right. I mean, because certainly there are people who track the market using full moons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There are people say that the high occurs on a full moon. And then if you ever talk to a cop, he'll be like, never work a full moon Saturday night. Kind of thing.
That's what was that? What was that theory? Gant's theory or something? It was like more like astrology. I'm trying to remember the name.
Yeah, Gann, W.D. Gann, right? He was saying like the solstice, which was just yesterday, right?
What was it?
Yeah, longest day of the year. Here comes winter.
Oh wow.
Anyway, David, if you had to teach somebody something about trading in this environment, what would you teach them?
to be selective, you know, just be, because like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, good traders, and I've seen like the stats. There's like a couple of websites that track like verified trades, and I've seen a lot of good traders struggling or just going on a down, what do you call it, a drawdown, um, lately, the past month, 2 months maybe, and it's a lot of systematic traders actually. So they have these systems, and the systems at the moment it's they haven't adapted as well to this market, this new market that we're in. And
I-
I think that the opportunity is still there. You just got to be more selective. You got to be nimble. I know Adam was mentioning about getting squeezed on these stocks that we play the same stocks like Revlon. I
Mhm.
shorted Revlon a few days ago, the first day. Then after that, I realized, okay, there's a lot. I was gonna, you know, the next day, the same thing happened. The third day, like it kept jumping up. And I was like, you know what, this is the borrow rate is too high. There's too many short sellers. Everyone's too strong in their thesis about it being bankrupt. It has a catalyst and some Indian company. Someone wrote a blog, like a ridiculous little Mickey Mouse blog about an Indian company potentially acquiring, and that was enough to spark attention to it on top of all the other stuff that's going on. So it's jammed. You know, like when a stock is jammed, I picture like someone threw a wrench in the engine. You know, it's like it's toxic. It's a toxic. You know, for example, I told this to Adam actually, and a couple of my friends that I trade with during the day. I'm in LA in downtown at the US Bank Tower right now, and a couple blocks over is a Skid Row. You know, it's like messing with the toxic stock that the borrow rate is high, all the shorts, all the stuff I mentioned is like going to Skid Row to go get some tacos because it's a little bit cheaper over there, you know, or like why are you gonna so don't go there. It's not worth it, you know. It's go somewhere else and get the tacos. You don't need to go to Skid Row. Maybe it's only 2 blocks away as opposed to 3 or 4 blocks, but like it's not worth. You might get away with it. I mean, you might go there and nothing's gonna happen, but like you're gonna, you know, it's a potential disaster. You know, just just the smell alone in the area, you don't want to be around that. So like that's like the Revlon or Redbox. Like, it smells bad. I don't want to deal with it. I'll short another stock. So it's just like being very selective. I think it's really helped me out, and also has helped my stress levels. You know, it's I've been less. The stress levels have been pretty good lately. Knock on wood. You know, so yeah, if I was teaching someone, be selective. Um, and I don't know, the only way I know how to go about things is just hardcore. So like I just go, that's the way I do things. So like if I were to teach anybody, they gotta be as hardcore as like I would be as hardcore, as far as learning and the hours putting in and all that. Not I won't even bother teaching or going out of my way for that. You know, so I'm very demanding as a person for myself. So like I would expect that if you really want to make it in this game where, like you said, the smartest people in the world, you're competing against them, as well as a lot of people. There's just so many people every on a given day, you know. So like a stock is trading millions and millions of shares with like thousands of people in it. You got to be, you know, how, and only a few people are actually successful with it. So if I were to teach someone, yeah, you gotta, how bad do you want it? You know, so you know, if you're gonna do this on your own, you're gonna, because like if I'm teaching someone, they didn't go to school, obviously, right? They're just seeking me out. I didn't go to school either. I went to school for architecture.
Right.
So they gotta, I don't know how to even teach that. Like you gotta just, how bad do you want it? This is not a, I don't see this as a hobby, you know? Um, yeah,
Is it a game or a sport? That's the question.
it's a
Right?
sport. I think
Yeah.
it's a sport, like a Olympic sport,
Right.
you know? I know for me, like when I'm at TradeSpace, I'm there bright and early. I picture it like Kobe Bryant or whatever in there before the game starts. Actually, I trade my best when I'm like I'm trading early pre-market, because the early pre-market, even if I have no trades on, I'm still knowing what's moving. I'm forced to sit in front of the screen and like do homework. I'm going over my trades from the last day because they've already the broker already processed it and I can journal it now. I can see what the whole macro is doing. I can see, so like I don't know. That's that's my process. So that is like a sport. Like an Olympic athlete goes through that, you know. I was an athlete in college, you know what I mean? So like I played baseball. For baseball, we had batting practice, 1,000 balls a day, you know, 1,000 ground balls a day. You have to do sprints, they do plyometric workouts to get a little faster because it's a 60-yard dash, so you have to be timed in to, I don't know, you got to do all this throwing mechanics, and it's a lot of stuff that goes involved. If you want to do this, I mean, if you want to play Sunday softball like we do in Puerto Rico, that's a different story. But like, if you want to, like, what do you want to play? So you're doing stocks. Like I went to Thailand. I was in Thailand and Dubai last month, and I was talking on the phone with someone about stocks, and someone overheard it, an American dude, and he's like, oh, so how's the game treating you? How's the game treating you? And like, I already can tell this guy is like, he does not respecting the fact that you can lose a lot of money in this. This is not a game you could, you treat it, it's fun, and you do it like, just for fun, and it's fun in games, but like, I don't see it that way. I saw it like as a way to change my life and improve my situation in life, and reach my goals faster. So
Right.
I don't know.
You're not backing up, put it that way. You're here. You're here for the duration, which is
Yeah.
great. Hey, Adam, you hear about how David's talking about being selective, right? And I would say, we're, as pros, right, we're good at managing a trade when we get into them. And then so if we go backwards, like forcibly, and like, okay, well, how did this disaster start that we're in? It's obviously the place where we initiated the trade. And so I finally wrote on a Post-it note to myself, be really discerning about the initiations of my trades, because if I'm looking to get rid of losers, it all starts with where I start, or where I put the trade on. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, there was a quote by someone, I forgot who made this quote, but he said, like, life is lived going forwards, but it's learned going backwards. And that's I think that's the way it is with trading as well. It's like with trading, you have to predict what's going to happen with the stock, like what's going to happen with the stock price in the future. And so for me, like, I see what a stock does after the fact. I'm like, man, I wish I could have predicted that, or I should have known that the stock's going to do that. And so what you have to do is just learn from it, and just try to keep adding bits of knowledge about what you see happens with stocks. So then if you see a similar situation in the future, then you have more of an idea to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, the deja vu. Now, are you a
Yeah.
predictor or a reactor? And David,
I'm,
are you a predictor or a reactor?
I would say I'm more of a predictor, I think, because I look at the situation, like I'll analyze the news, I'll figure out why it's up, and then I'll just kind of try to predict, okay, what's going to happen based on my experience, what I've seen happen in the past in similar situations. Then I can predict what pattern, because with trading, the patterns keep repeating themselves over and over again. So I have to think about what pattern is this stock going to do now on this news, and or based on what the stock's been trading, or also based on what people are saying in social media. Like if you look at what people are saying on Twitter, Stock, Twitch, Reddit, that's also information that you have to use to predict what was
Right. So you're a predictor. David, are you a predictor or reactor?
I guess both in a sense, because like with the small caps, especially, like I like to see them. A lot of them are pump and dumps. You kind of know the end game. It's just a planning around the end game. So predicting, like Adam and I, we short saw a lot of the pump and dumps, and the pump and dumps are predictable, I think, so you predict it. Now at the same time, like Redbox or Revlon, that's a different story. You can't really predict. You kind of predict, you try to predict the squeeze and avoid the squeeze, so yeah,
right. The difference is that predictors, right, take a lot more heat, and reactors are late, right? If you're just reacting to a situation, you're letting other people put their cards on the table, right, Adam?
Yeah.
And so they're making more highly profitable trades, but less gravy. And the predictors, we take more heat, but we make bigger money when we're right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
the reactors are more scalpers, right? They just kind of go in and out.
Or will they wait till the cards
for the backside of the move, maybe?
Yeah, wait for the card flip, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm half and half, man. It's like sometimes if I see a Chinese stock getting pumped through various ways, I'm like, okay, let me throw in a size and just size into it as it goes up, what I'm predicting. And then sometimes if it's a day trade, I don't do that. If it's a day trade, I will wait till the backside is in and then attack it. You know,
Yeah,
so
I mean, they're two completely different philosophical outlooks on the way to go with. Essentially, what we're dealing with is probabilistic decision making, right?
yeah.
And so it's like, okay, predictors were early, and then if we switched to the reactor mode, you know, we're doing, it's like the retest of the high or the low, right? The retest are the people who are waiting to react to the failure of the, you know, of the new high or the failure of the new low. And the predictors are the people who are, you know, taking the stab at the ultimate high or the low. So they're both out there. It's just a question of where, you know, where we fit.
You know,
Yeah.
like GameStop or AMC when they're going parabolic, you're like the predictor is gonna jump in the short sell the parabolic actions. Are you saying like,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess I'm not that person. I don't short those. I see
right.
like some last year especially you have those front sides parabolic action or like
Yeah,
Tesla or something. I just
right.
no. I guess I'm not a predictor then.
Right, because like a predictor would be the person who's taking a stab at a new low or a new high and just using a time stop, right? Either I'm right, because essentially what's the definition of a new low, or a real low? The definition is it's only going to be there for a finger snap because everyone wants to buy it and it'll move away from there. So you're going to only have the opportunity to buy the low for literally a finger snap, right? So if you're going to be a predictor, you're going to take that stab at that new low and then you just use a time stop. If I'm not right in 3 minutes, I'm gone, because it's obviously
Yeah.
no one else is sharing my opinion.
Well, I looked. I thought the way I looked at predictor. I mean, maybe there's a different, like, technical analysis term for it, but I look at predictors more like kind of getting all the information together and making a prediction on what the stock's going to do.
Right.
Whereas to me, a reactor is more of a technical. Like it sees, a certain like green candle, okay, and then a red candle, okay. So I'm going to react to this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to react to this red candle or whatever. So like a reactor to me, it seems more like just a technical trader. Or a predictor, I guess you call it more like I'm more of like a headline trader or like a fundamental trader, but at the same time I have to go by technicals as well. So I use everything together to make my trading decisions.
Yeah, I mean, there are that. I mean, it is a. I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but it is a philosophical difference that we should be literate in it, at least understanding our behavior. Are we late to the trade because, in which case we're reacting to what the market's doing, confirming a move, or are we predicting a turn where we're trying to pick a top or a bottom? And just be able to explain our behavior to ourselves. That's all. I don't have an axe. I have no axe to grind here, but it's an interesting conversation in that regard.
Yeah, I'm all for trying to become a better trader, like learning new techniques and learning how other people are successful and trying to do what they do as well.
What are you studying?
Well, I do I'm more primarily a short seller, so I'm also trying to find ways to go long as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, long is a different ball game than shorting. It's a different mindset, it's a different skill set, and but at the same time, a lot of times, if someone looks like a bad short, maybe it's a good long, and vice versa. If something looks like a bad long, then it could be a good short. So I think if you're a good short seller, you can also be a good long buyer as well.
Adam, have you ever heard the saying the best sell signal is a failed buy signal?
Yeah, yeah,
Because, right, the failed buy signal is before you even get the sell signal. So you're getting in before the sell signal,
yeah.
right?
Makes sense.
Right. David, what are you
Yeah.
learning?
Yeah, I mean, just a thought that like one of my goals this year, and I'm putting it off, is like I need to start longing to avoid getting squeezed. Like, okay, like I picture my longs as to avoid getting in a bad short. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sounds easy in theory, but like it's just so hard to actually
Right.
practice.
Right. I mean, I sense there's a degree of humility now in all of us, right? Because we're still trying to learn. The game is changing.
Yeah, on that topic, David, like what I found is hard with that is like if you don't like going long normally and you're like, okay, if I'm not going to long, I'm going to short. You're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do, long or short. Like sometimes it's better to just like step aside and not
Yeah.
do anything. So it's all like a matter of figuring out what to do, and sometimes doing nothing is the right thing to do.
Right. Be really
Yeah.
discerning. Be really discerning about your initiations because all the problems start there.
Yep. And there's, I mean, David talked about this a lot before. There's the opportunity cost. Like if you have problems with one stock, if you're like stuck in like a short squeeze and you're short, that's going to take all your emotional energy and your capital, and you're going to miss other opportunities out there.
I'm single and so I'm dating, and I hear from women a lot that a bad marriage is worse than no marriage, which would be the same sort of thing about what you're saying about getting into a bad stock, a bad trade, right?
Yeah, I agree.
For example, like if I were to get in it's just so hard to be able to flip the mindset. So like when I'm shorting something, I'm anticipating it possibly going against me and possibly going, there's higher risks than longing. Longing, it doesn't do that. Longing, you just lose what you put in, as opposed to shorting one of these micro craps. They go from $1, $2, $3, and you anticipate that move and you size into it, as opposed to a long. I don't want to be averaging down to a bad stock. So it's just very, and but at the same time, I don't want to short a low float and I don't want to short a high borrow fee. So it's like, maybe that's a better long. And then like, it's a tough game. So like, I think no trade is better than a trade, at least until like, I don't know who, until I get to that level or we get to that level somehow of mastery. I don't know.
Right. I mean, we're assessing probabilities in an uncertain environment, right? And so one thing which I think we're all doing, which we should point out to the people listening, is when we're confronted by a confusing situation, which David is very eloquently talking about. When we're confronted by a confusing situation, we're choosing curiosity over anxiety. You can see that there's a solid mental process that's not agitated that we're going through. And so among people who love the game, in the face of a confusing situation, we're choosing curiosity. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let's choose curiosity.
Right. David, you have a podcast that is great that I should come on, and as long as we don't talk about my past history.
Oh yeah. Still trying to figure out how to approach that one. I heard your one recently on Chat with Traders, man. That was great.
Yeah.
You talk about that. I mean, we're not going to go deep into it, whatever. It's too long of a conversation, but like you talk about that whole experience thing. Does experience hinder you or does it not? I think you brushed on it a little bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a podcast, the Friendly Bear podcast. It's on all the audio platforms. It's on YouTube, and the audio is actually designed to like increase your learning. So like you can do it on the go. So you can watch it as you see fit on YouTube, and then like listen to it while you're doing laundry or whatever. That's the way I do it. So Adam's on there. He's been on a few episodes.
And
Hopefully we get you on there too, Chris. And
it's the Friendly Bear, right?
yeah, Friendly
And
Bear podcast.
and then what are your Twitter handles?
Twitter, reverse_long, and friendly reports for the Friendly Bear podcast.
And
Here,
I
I'll write mine down in the chat. Mine is at
Okay.
Shining Boy is my personal, and then my research firm, White Diamond Research, is at White Research on Twitter. So the White Research actually has more followers than I have, because that one I only post my my company's research on there, and then my own I post all kinds of stuff, like mostly having to do with trading, but if you just want my firm's solid research, you can follow at White Research.
Oh, that's nice. I'll do that. We got the name of Elliot. It's Ralph Nelson Elliott in
Oh, there
regards,
you go.
right? So I guess at our next cocktail party, that'll be a trivia question. And it's a short week, and then it's another holiday week, you guys.
Oh,
So
really? What's the holiday?
yeah,
Oh, July
the
4th.
July 4th, right? You know they love to wave the flag and buy them, right? It's like wave the flag and bid the stocks. You know the people in power are in danger of losing the Congress, right? So you know that there's a big, and if you have high gas prices and low stocks, you're not going to win the election,
Yep.
right? So be careful on the short side, guys.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. They love to wave the flag and buy the stocks into 4th of July.
Okay.
And right, and everyone's on vacation. It's all feel good, right? Driving and going, kids are out of school. So, it's a fun time of year. So I've seen them they drift higher into this 4th of July. So given your short side bias, that's my warning. Somebody asked about, Noel asked about when you figured out the puzzle, it implies a very high degree of confidence. Is there any indicator you guys got for what's your best indicator for Noel?
I actually got to go because I got to get ready for that poker game
Okay,
I told
go
you guys
get him.
about.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
I'll
been a
handle
pleasure,
it.
guys.
Okay,
That's
Adam, good luck today. Thanks for coming. Come back again. And
see you,
Yeah, we'll
Adam.
do. All
All right,
right.
the
See you
don't
guys.
get bluffed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the poker discussion. I'll use it in the game.
All right, man.
Okay. Bye.
See you later. David, what's your best
Yeah.
indicator?
The best indicator, let's see, just avoiding low floats and just be careful with low floats. But the best indicator, I guess, if it's a stock is Chinese, that's a red flag right there.
Yeah, I mean, people always want the answer, right, Dave? You know that, right? They're just like, give me the answer. I don't care about the story. And lately, the answer is a moving target, it seems to me. And with the volatility, I'm seeing a lot of symmetry, measured moves and things like that. And momentum seems to be important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Volume is a big major indicator,
Yeah,
you know?
right. And it seems as though when they trap people, they don't let them out. So if you can see somebody who's trapped, you definitely want to step on their neck because
Yeah.
everybody else is. And but yeah, no, I wish we had if we had the answer, we'd tell you. How's that? We would not be
Yeah.
backing up. But anyway, yeah, we're pushing an hour and 10 minutes, Dave. Good to see
Yeah.
you. Good to see you.
Absolutely. You too, Chris.
And
Thanks for having me.
stay close.
Absolutely.
Thank you everybody for watching, and be careful being short into the 4th of July.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. See you guys later.